What is up, everybody? Crunchy Frog back with another Call of Duty discussion video, and today I'll bring you some Call of Duty Vanguard footage. Not for the last time, but one of the last videos I'll make on this game in advance of Modern Warfare 2 here at the end of the month. As the lifespan of Call of Duty Vanguard draws to a close, today we begin to look back on this year's past installment to the COD franchise and decide what was good, what was bad, and what we hope never returns in another COD. As we all know, Vanguard was not the strongest of outings for the franchise, and complaints and criticism have been raised by the community practically since launch day. If you've been on Reddit, YouTube, Twitter, anything like that, I'm sure you've seen your fair share of this. However, today we'll take a break from the negativity and constructive criticisms and look toward what I personally actually enjoyed this year in Vanguard. Think of it as almost half of a review, with the video coming shortly, discussing maybe some of the not so good parts of the game as the second half of the review. Wanted to keep it short and keep this kind of a positive video. So today we'll discuss several things that constituted a step forward for the franchise, and some stuff that hopefully will be brought back in Modern Warfare 2 and some of the games beyond. So without further ado, we'll get right into it. Now, this list isn't, in order of importance or anything like that. Just kind of threw down random thoughts on a piece of paper here. So by no means is this listed in any rank of importance. But first and foremost, the amount of content at launch was actually really impressive, and it was something that not only myself but the entire community seemed to rally around and really commend Sledgehammer for. And honestly, one of the reasons why I actually decided to buy the game. To me, it looked like a step forward for the franchise that had been giving us, 8 or 9 maps to launch for the last few years. So it seemingly righted the ship for something that was a complaint for several years. We got 16 multiplayer maps and 38 weapons at launch. And that was a major step forward. I remember watching a video, I believe Nero Cinema made it, where he broke down the launch content of Vanguard versus the past 3 or 4 games that we got, and it was just such a crazy 180 turnaround from those games. And I think he said that it was kind of on par with what Modern Warfare 3 offered us way back in 2011, 2012, 2011, something like that. And so that was a great thing right out of the gate. Again, it partially got me to purchase the game. I'm sure many others as well, since it looked like COD had finally listened to his fan base. And another huge thing that they brought that honestly, in my mind, was a huge step forward was operator levels. The fact that, for the last few years, we've had these operators that were mainly in the game to sell skins and, promote quote-unquote customization, which was just another way to say we can monetize the shit out of everything. But in Call of Duty Vanguard, they changed it so there was actual levels. There was a sense of progression. There were rewards for leveling, the actual operators up. If you got everyone in the little mini 3-person squads that they created leveled up to max level, you got additional skins, mastery skins, kind of like we saw back in Black Ops 3. Which adds another layer of progression, some more accomplishment that you feel, more levels, more numbers to see tick up that make your brain feel happy. And again, it gave you a way to unlock skins, as opposed to, either buying them from the shop or the challenge system that I wasn't a huge fan of in Modern Warfare. I didn't have to change how I played. In order to level these guys up, but it gave me more things to level up, more things to unlock, and in a Call of Duty game, I love it. Another thing is the level of destructibility in environments. Sledgehammer games seem to go really all in with this concept. The controversial doors obviously could be shot through, blown up, beaten down. There were several purposefully destructible points on the map that could open up sightlines, stuff like that. It turned into a certain meta within each map, of who would open up certain sightlines and how the map flowed when something was destroyed versus when it was still intact, which I thought brought a nice tiny little level of complexity to each map and to certain gunfights that we hadn't really seen before. I know COD has flirted with destruction in the past, but never really gotten too deep on it. And of course, just the overall level of destruction, walls splintered apart, entire elements of the map literally looked lived in. From the time you started the map to the end of, say, a 10-minute domination game, the map looked drastically different, especially maps like Eagle's Nest. That, I think that was actually the name. I could be wrong, but the map that was based on Eagle's Nest, right? Looked completely different from the beginning of a map until the end of a map. That's something we haven't really seen in COD, and I really loved it. Doesn't look like Modern Warfare 2 brought that too much, but we'll have to see at launch there. Next up, we have Shinonuma. Now, notice I did not mention the zombies mode as a whole because the rest was frankly god awful, and it'll probably wind up on my next video for the negatives of Vanguard. But Shinonuma was a gem in the rough, a diamond in the rough, if you will. Despite how awful the rest of the zombies offering was, Shinonuma was just a great remaster of a classic fan favorite map. They teased us with that weird objective that you kind of played survival on Shinonuma in one part, to kind of tide fans over. But once they finally released the actual full standalone survival round-based map for Shinonuma, it was super cool. The progression felt really good, being able to buy perk upgrades and pack-a-punch upgrades. The visuals were great. The new area that they added was super cool. I didn't beat the full Easter egg. I beat the Wonderwaff Easter egg, which was really fun. I love doing Easter eggs, especially since I'm not that good at them. So I felt, a little sense of accomplishment being able to do that and actually get the Wonderwaff, and then try to just do that every single time we played the map and, eventually get it down to a science. Super fun, and I actually had a few nights of really exciting gameplay on that, which is something that cannot be said for the rest of the zombies experience, but it felt good. They did right by us for that map and kind of that map alone, but it was very much so appreciated, and I heavily enjoyed it. Next up, mastery camos. I actually really enjoyed the look of these. Now, the challenges to unlock these camos themselves will be touched on in the not so positive video coming up. But the actual aesthetic of the camos looked fantastic. I really loved the gold camo. I think I got 3 or 4, maybe 5 guns gold, and I enjoy them all. I use them in Warzone sometimes to this day. And Atomic was really cool. I think it was, somewhat period specific. Obviously, it's not realistic in any way, shape, or form, but, it wasn't quite as flashy. You could tell they kind of held it back because it was supposed to be a World War II game. But at the same time, it was unique, it was cool, and it definitely showed off that you had mastered the guns in that game. Next up, Champion Hill mode. Now, I know they did really nothing with it after launch, and they kind of left it to die in the field, so to speak, but honestly, the mode was super fun. It was a great iteration on the gunfight gameplay that had been brought and kind of reiterated on the last 2 years with Modern Warfare and Cold War. But it just felt so much better, and the money system and kind of the tournament style every time, and versing different teams each time, it just felt super competitive, super fun. And I actually won 1 or 2, and it was just a great time. Now, I didn't play too much of it, and I know they started yanking it from playlists and stuff, so I wasn't able to get maybe as much time in as I had hoped, and obviously we didn't get any additional maps after launch, but the time that I did spend in it were very, very fun. And honestly, I do wish they would have fleshed it out more, maybe added 2 or 3 DLC maps along the way, and really enabled us to just have more fun with that over the course of this year. And I hope that future games maybe incorporate it again, or at least, provide further iteration on the gunfight formula. Next up, we have Patrol mode. I really enjoyed this brand new game mode. Now, I'm not sure if there was a iteration of this game mode in the past few games. None that I remember. Please feel free to correct me in the comments section if I'm wrong. But I really enjoyed it. It felt kind of like Hardpoint. You get that defend the hill, quote unquote, type of gameplay, while also having to move around the map. It made matches feel so much more dynamic and less campy. And if a team got in the hill, so to speak, the hardpoint, it didn't feel like a foregone conclusion that they were just going to hold it for the rest of the time. In games like Hardpoint, Headquarters, King of the Hill, various game modes like that. It can kind of feel like, the first team in it can kind of just get in there, head glitch in a corner, camp, and they own that for pretty much the entire, until it shifts to the next location. But with Patrol, the circle's constantly moving, so you never felt out of it. You never felt like were never going to capture that point, or vice versa. You never felt too safe when you were in it. I had some of my best gameplay in it, and some of my most fun in Vanguard in that game mode. And honestly, all the matches I played were so much more hectic and so much more fun than a typical match. And I really hope that we see this game mode again going forward. Kind of related, sort of, in a way. My next point is they did really lean into and embrace fan feedback when it came to keeping a 24/7 shipment type playlist. I know in the beginning of Modern Warfare they were really hesitant to do it. They kept yanking it. I can't speak on Cold War. I didn't play that game during its launch window or really lifespan at all. But I was really happy that they gave the community what they asked for, and there was always a quote unquote fast action or gun leveling playlist. In terms of a shipment or DOS house, something like that every single week. So I appreciate that. Next up, I really enjoyed the remaster maps for this game. Some that come to mind, obviously Dome and Castle remakes. Everybody had been screaming for a Castle remake for years. We finally got it, and it looked absolutely amazing. Didn't always play great with some of the mechanics, of modern COD games, but overall, I really loved it, and I wish that they had remastered more World of War maps. I really wish they had just kind of, gone in the sack and pulled out a whole bunch of other remastered maps for us to, experience. Obviously, they did USS Texas, which don't get me started on that, but other than that, I did really enjoy the few that we got, and I'm really hoping. Obviously, the expectation with Modern Warfare 2 is that we get a lot of Modern Warfare 2 remasters, and there's rumors of the paid DLC and Modern Warfare 2 expansion, whatever. But I really hope we see some great attention to detail. Maps, redone maps again like that going forward. Next, a pretty big one, and one that I noticed right off the start, was the gunplay and weapon feel was very rewarding. And that was honestly, again, one of the first comments that I made when playing the game. I remember turning to my friend and saying, wow, this feels really satisfying to get a kill, or to get a headshot specifically. I don't know if it was the hit marker sound or kill sound or what, or just how the guns handled, but it was just so rewarding, and actually kept me playing sometimes when otherwise I probably would have gotten off. The Modern Warfare engine obviously makes that, every gunfight feel a little better. There's more weight to it. It feels a little more satisfying because you feel like you've earned it more with the increased recoil and handling physics and everything like that. But Vanguard just somehow one-upped that and kind of fine-tuned that even better, such that for all that was wrong with Vanguard, whenever things were going right and you were getting kills, it felt very rewarding, and really kept me going and got me hooked there in the first month or so. I also liked that the game focused on all of World War II content. I know Sledgehammer's 2017 game, World War II, mainly focused on like the European theater. That's where the campaign took place. That's where a lot of the guns were from at launch. They didn't include a whole lot of Pacific theater maps and stuff like that. If any, if I recall. I don't know if they included any, at least at launch. But I was very happy to see that they tried to include all of World War II content. Obviously, they started to stray from that towards the middle/late phases of the yearly cycle in terms of going way off the rails with it, which we've talked about in a previous video, so I won't harp on it today. But at least at launch, we got more of a feel for everything World War II. It wasn't just honed into the European theater or, specific countries' guns more so than anyone else, especially incorporating a lot more from the Pacific theater, which I loved. As a World War II nut myself, I really enjoyed seeing that kind of content and maps and weapons and operators and everything brought into this game to kind of round out the experience. So that about wraps it up here today. I know Vanguard wasn't exactly a extremely strong entry in the series, and there was a lot of criticisms, both valid and otherwise, over this past year. There was still some very strong points. The large amount of day one content we saw should really set a new standard for COD that it should strive to achieve for the next few iterations. The gunplay felt tight and responsive and rewarding, and Champion Hill was actually a really cool iteration on the gunfight formula that, while it was a little underbaked, it provided a great competitive experience for a small group of friends to, round out the 6v6 and larger gameplay as well. Overall, I hope that Modern Warfare 2 ships with the same amount of content as Vanguard, and definitely that it treats its inevitable remastered maps with just as much love and attention to detail that Sledgehammer was able to give us with the World of War remakes this year. So again, that pretty much wraps it up for us here today. If you've enjoyed everything that you've heard so far, remember to drop a like and definitely hit that subscribe button to stay up to date with future content like this. If there's any points that you disagreed with or anything that you wanted to add that you really enjoyed from this year's Call of Duty, definitely feel free to leave your thoughts down there in the comment section. I reply to every comment and try to get back with you guys and create meaningful discussion down there in the comments. And as always, check out the playlist that I have on my channel for all of my other Call of Duty discussions and commentaries and reviews. If you like this style of video, you'll find a bunch of similar ones there. So other than that, until next time, guys, I appreciate you all tuning in, and everyone have a great day. Thanks.